This is your boy Ty Asbury from Off the Top Rope, and we put the sizzle. Off the Top Rope, Wednesday night live at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you look at your Christmas stocking, you look down, and you pull out the gift that your boy Ty Asbury is about to give you. Hey, no doubt, the queen of soft style, Miranda Morales, makes her return to Off the Top Rope to talk it up with your boy Ty Asbury. And I must say, this lady is one of the best out there. And every time she comes on the show, you know it's going to be darn right sizzling. Check out Off the Top Rope, the queen of soft style, Miranda Morales makes her. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to watch the best wrestling podcast around with some sizzle, it is Off the Top Rope. Yeah. This is your boy Ty Asbury. Like I always say, it's Wednesday night, and you know what's going down. Christmas ain't over on this episode because my live guest is a present, especially to me, that she is back on the show. One of the best wrestling voices in the world. She's one of my favorites, and she's a podcast buddy to me as well. From Lucha Central and the Chairshot.com, the queen of soft style, Miranda Morales. She's back in the house live tonight. Miranda, what is up?
Hi, Ty. I'm so excited to be back on the show. Thank you so much for the invitation, and hello to everybody out there.
Yeah, we are live as can be, and I want to start off by saying the way we do it on the show, we got the comment section up here on the screen, so you want to ask her any questions about what she's up to, because we know she stays busy about Lucha Central and the Chairshot. Just ask away any questions that you have for the queen of soft style. Now, Miranda, I got to ask you up front, just flat out. Christmas is over with. Now, we know how busy you can be with all your wrestling content, the two associations you work for. Did you get a break?
Yes, I've had a bit of a break. I recorded some materials with LuchaCentral.com. Just recently, we have recorded our end of year awards for the Lucha Central Weekly podcast. That is coming out this week and next week, where we highlight the year that was in the world of Lucha Libre, as well as an interview that we recorded with Lucha Underground alum Lil Cholo, which we just put out last week as well. So we're staying busy with the content over the holiday season, but definitely got a break. We've been enjoying the past week with Christmas out of the way and now heading into the new year.
Yeah, and it's crazy how fast 2021 is pretty much gone after this week. But now, are you the type where I know you're really invested in your work, which is good. Now, over the holidays, when you were just, having Christmas dinner and presents, were you kind of like looking at the content that you did, like, I got to look at this or that, or you just said, got to put it away? Like, do you get like that?
I would say that sometimes ideas do pop out of nowhere. So that's probably where my head was at. I was definitely more in a reflective state with thinking about all the interviews that I've been able to be a part of for LuchaCentral.com, and kind of, just going back to that and enjoying that and being appreciative of that. But I did get some time to just kind of put it all away, not focus too much on recording, on content, on all of that. I just kind of, put the content out there, hope that people that, enjoy it now, and, just try to enjoy this time myself.
Well, like I said, I know you for a while now, and we've done many podcasts together, and I know for a fact that you're all about putting out the absolute best for your fans. And did you do things maybe with Lucha Central or the Chairshot? Did you do things differently with them that were different that fans really liked that they haven't seen before? If that
Mm.
was the case, over the past year.
Yeah. I would say for luchacentral.com, like I said, I think my proudest accomplishment with the luchacentral.com this year was the various interviews that we did. And it ranged from wrestlers to content creators. And I really felt like that helped encompass what the bigger picture is in Lucha Libre. Lucha Libre is not only a form of wrestling, but it's also a cultural aspect of, Latin America. It's so really ingrained into, uh, what is part of Latin American culture. And I think we did such a great job with that, with, the interviews that we had this year, interviewing wrestlers like Gino Medina and Zenshi, Lil Cholo, to content creators like Martin Carrillo with Wrestling with Unicorns, who records, all over the U.S. and highlights wrestling matches that so people get to see really all over the world. To a podcast creator, Dan Fletcher, who put together his own luchador drama podcast series. And so I think that because we just hit such a varying degree of people, that was kind of my biggest accomplishment, and I think what I'm more proud of, and what I think made 2021 kind of unique for me, doing things differently and looking at a broader perspective of wrestling.
Now, you do so much. I'm like, man, her resume is just like Wazal. It's just big, and I'm very proud of you for how you've gotten to this point. Your resume is just off the roof. Are you still doing the Miranda show? I haven't seen. How's that going? Or you kind of decide that's still going on?
Yeah, the hashtag Miranda Show is still part of the Chairshot Radio Network. Recording has been a little bit more challenging. Sorry. As of late, just due to scheduling, but I still record that pretty frequently with my friend and producing partner, Greg DeMarco, who runs thechairshot.com. I'd say with the hashtag Miranda Show, one of the things I really focus on is when I get the chance to highlighting the local wrestling scene in Arizona, specifically a promotion that both Greg and I are part of called Impact Zone Wrestling, IZW. And one of my favorite episodes to do of the hashtag Miranda Show, when I get to do it about 4 times a year, is our IZW review show. And that's when Greg and I go through the entire IZW card and highlight the most recent show. We talk about matches, we talk about wrestlers, storylines, everything. And we also kind of peel a little bit behind the curtain too on how things come together. And for me, I really use the hashtag Miranda Show too as a way to kind of just continue to share my love of independent wrestling and how it's brought in so much joy to me, but specifically IZW, Impact Zone Wrestling, that I have a very big soft spot for. So recording for the hashtag Miranda Show is a little bit more sporadic, especially over the past few months, but it is still occurring. And again, I definitely use it to highlight IZW.
Now, you talked about being in Arizona, really taking what you've been doing for a long time, the Arizona wrestling scene. Have you, with the pandemic, which I'm sure we're all driving us all crazy, has the Arizona wrestling scene, how is that current right now? I mean, is it getting bigger, or has it been the same? Like, how, in your eyes, how do you see the Arizona wrestling scene currently right now?
Yeah, I would say at this moment, the Arizona wrestling scene is bouncing back, and it has been for quite some time. But now we're starting to see kind of a surgence of a few new promotions coming up, as well as consistency from the promotions that have been able to return since the pandemic. IZW, Impact Zone Wrestling, is one of them that have was able to really continue and start up in late 2020. They had their first show back in November of 2020 and it had been running a few times throughout 2021. And other promotions like Phoenix Championship Wrestling also returned in 2021. So it was great to see some promotions that have that got impacted by the pandemic to return and be consistent and strong in 2021. But there's some new promotions popping up as well. Also, Board Promotions, which was one of the big Lucha Libre promotions in Arizona, brought back their shows in 2021. Same thing with Rockstar Wrestling Alliance. So it's been great to see promotions come back up. But it's definitely on the upswing. Really great activity, pretty much, something for everyone in Arizona, which is something that I'm really happy to see. Arizona is not necessarily known as being a big wrestling state like nearby Texas or California, but there's a lot of great talent that makes their way through Arizona, that work in Arizona, that perform in Arizona. So I'm hoping now that we get more eyes here in the promotions that are active.
And that's a really cool thing that you're really trying to get everybody invested in the Arizona wrestling scene. Like you said, it's not really as big as Texas or, California, but we all know how wrestling fans, some like the big leagues, AEW, WWE, and the independent scene. Like, what would you say to fans that are missing out on the independent scene to really start to keep an eye open for the indie scene? What would you say to fans around the world?
Yeah, I would say independent wrestling is an awesome experience to be a part of live. You are so connected with what is happening in the moment in those matches. You get invested in characters, in performers. You get invested in storylines, and you really are part of a community. If any, one of the first things that I noticed or that drew me as a fan wasn't even in wrestling. It was like college sports. And one of the things that I loved about college sports is how you felt really connected to your school. And I feel it's almost kind of a similar thing when you are an independent wrestling show. That is your place. That is your home. These are people who are living in your community, in your state, or even people who actively want to come and wrestle in your state to perform for you. And you just get so intrigued by everything that's happening. And if you love to see what's on your TV, imagine it happening right in front of your eyes. Imagine being at a venue and being able to see people wrestle and being literally in the front row to be there for all the live action. And there's still such a demand for independent talent. We still see lots of people in the independent scene make their way to Impact, to MLW, and even to WWE. And so the people that you see in the ring now may be people that you will see in those bigger promotions, in just a few short months or years. Especially AEW utilizes a lot of independent talent for Dark and Elevation. And I think it's such a cool thing too to see people who at one point were wrestling in your home promotion or in your state and then move forward in their career. It's such an awesome thing to kind of feel like you're part of their experience. And you really are. As fans, we're really part of a professional's experience as they make their way to bigger opportunities.
Yeah, and AEW is really utilizing the local talent, and it still really touches me the day that when I used to go to CCW in Philly, John Moxley, he used to be like right there in front of me, like, man, he's an AEW now, and Adam Cole, who's just like taking it up a notch right now with what he's doing in AEW, and it's just a really cool thing, like you said, how especially maybe the promotions under WWE, they're really utilizing the local talent that passed through there, and it's just a really cool. I still think it's a cool time to be a wrestling fan because you have AEW, WWE going back and forth, and MLW, Impact, NWA. It's just we have like a buffet of promotions.
You really do.
That's
such a good analogy. Yes.
And I also want to say to everybody watching live, Miranda said the best. The things that are happening in front of you right now, one thing that's happened right now in front of all of us live is Miranda Morales is live on Off the Top Rope, making her return to the show. So, as I've said it before, she's one of my favorite voices in wrestling. So, send in comments, anything you want to do. Thanks, everybody, for watching this episode live right now, tonight, on this Wednesday night. Now, Miranda, I'm sure you've probably, I think, with what we all do with podcasting, announcing, we learn every day. It don't matter what you do, you keep learning and learning and learning. What did you learn about yourself in wrestling? Could be something new that called on to you to put more into your craft. It could be for your show, Lucha Central, or the Chairshot. What did you learn about yourself over this past year?
It's a good question. I know for me, one of the bigger kind of milestones in my career was a little bit more on the ring announcing side. And I got to venture into announcing lucha libre matches and announcing in Spanish and utilizing some of my Spanish knowledge, which for people, who may not know that, Spanish is a language that I know, but I have such stage fright when I speak it, even just to somebody one on one. So to now do it live in a ring where everyone can hear me and can point out kind of all the flaws, that was a very big accomplishment for me this year, is to, play around with announcing in another language. And so I think for me, it was my ability, which I do feel too that I learned, is how to craft an announcement, how to craft an intro, is something that I've been able to utilize both in as a ring announcer, but also in interviewing with luchacentral.com. And I think that I kind of maybe underestimated how myself and how to really craft an intro. That's something that I grew in. That's something that I continue to enjoy doing. And I feel like, the extra effort that you put in finding those little details about someone and adding it to an introduction, or, just trying to play around with information to really craft the best introduction that you can. That's something that I learned a lot about. And even just the differences in announcing American style versus lucha libre. And lucha libre, it's a lot more elaborate, where in American style, it's your straightforward weight, height, location, moniker, and in lucha libre, it's much more about your lineage, where you're from, all of the monikers, all of the names. It's much more grandiose and less about the hard facts. And so that's something that I really I'm still learning about and trying to embrace. But I think I've also then taken that into how I craft my introductions for Lucha Central, because I take kind of your duty on the Lucha Central weekly podcast. I introduce our interview guests, and I've really taken pride in being able to craft great introductions to help set up, who we're going to interview, and talking about, where they've wrestled from, or where we've seen them, any interesting facts about them. And we constantly, gotten some really great feedback from our interviewees about that. And I think it helps make us stand out, that we really do our research and we really try to go in prepared. And I feel like that's something I've been able to leverage, in both the ring announcing and the podcasting side.
Well, one thing that touched me, you mentioned that, stuff that you've gotten from me about, I think you mentioned about opening up about the talent. So I do that all the time. And you saying that about me, that you got that from me, I really appreciate that. And people who are watching the show that want to do this, definitely, like Miranda said, do your research, base it around the talent, and they really appreciate that when you put that into your craft and your presentation. Now, Miranda, when you were doing in Spanish the announcing, commentating, before you went through the curtain, were you like, I'm sure you were chilled, but were you just like, do you ever get that thing like, I can't believe I'm doing this? Like, how?
Yeah, I always get nervous, and I kind of have like resting bee face a little bit, where people will look at me and they're like, "Are you okay? Are you mad?" And I think I'm just so stoic, just trying to kind of get myself together before I announce. And I definitely am a fast talker when I have a lot of energy. So I tend to start off a little fast when I do my first set of introductions and announcements and welcomes, because that's how my energy translates. It's in kind of my fast paced speaking. I definitely sometimes I'm like, what am I doing? The nerves always get me in some capacity. I think for me, when it came to announcing in Spanish, it was more trying to practice and repeat, and trying to get things right, whether it was just pronunciation of words, my tone, just trying to do that. And so sometimes that almost takes away from any anxiety, but also adds anxiety because I'm focusing on these little tiny things that I'm trying to get right. And sometimes little mistakes happen, and those things too, I just try to work through and learn from. When I slip and maybe I didn't pronounce something right, or I didn't say it in the way that I wanted to, or I felt like I went too fast. Those are all learning aspects for me, that I try and just try to appreciate and try to move through. But yeah, I always get nervous, even now, mainly before starting a show. That very first going through the curtain, starting and welcoming people to a wrestling show, it's always going to be nerve-wracking for me. I don't think I'll ever not be nervous for it.
I think after, I'm sure, I mean, if you're announcing or interviewing, even podcasting, I'm sure you get nervous doing that. We do a podcast. I mean, I'm sure you get nervous when once you go on and do what you have to do. But I really think it's just the excitement, and you love doing it. I think that's what's the main thing about it, is that you love doing it. And one thing you should really understand is that what you're doing, I mean, you're commentating in Spanish, you're doing this and that. Not many people can do what you're doing. So you should always take that in stride and really be happy about that.
Yeah, thank you. No, I definitely feel really fortunate to do this, what I still do. I've been announcing now for 4 years, and I think that anytime you've been in something, but especially in wrestling for any period of time, you go back and forth between kind of measuring yourself up and seeing how far you should be in a certain amount of time, and in the same wavelength, appreciating what you have. And I feel like I sometimes focus too much on maybe what I have left to do, or what I want to do and what I haven't done, and all of these things, other than just being appreciative of the moment and how far, and the learning experiences that I've had. And so that's something that I feel like a lot of people in wrestling do that, because there's some people who get into the business right away and are able to just skyrocket success into whatever platforms they're looking for. And then there's other people who it takes longer, it takes years. And so, because of the variance in time with people and what they do in that time, I think it's very easy to kind of try and measure yourself up. But everyone's journey and experience is very different. And that's what I'm just really trying to appreciate and understand more.
Now I'm gonna pull up this clip because, like I said, you're just learning, doing announcing more, but you're also teaching and helping out the second generation of tomorrow after when you retire and leave the game. So I'm gonna pull up this clip now on your Facebook. Somebody said this about you on your Facebook page. I had to take this quote off. And when I saw this, I was like, man, she's really doing big things. I mean, giving seminars, and I had to pull that up and put that on the show because I thought it was really cool.
Yeah. Well, so that is a message from a fan, Kelby Klein, out here in Arizona. So that wasn't a literal seminar. So I have not done any real seminars, but that's his way of kind of jokingly talking about what's happening around. And so that's a phrase that he likes to use. So no seminars, but one thing I did do this year, which was such an experience for me is I have started to work with people getting into announcing, and I've done that in Phoenix Championship Wrestling, where now I am working with two other announcers. Carlos Lewis and Jacob East. And they are part of the Arizona Pro Wrestling Training Center. And Carlos is much more of like a host, type of person who has done interviews and kind of helps makes announcements with me during the show. And then Jacob East is a ring announcer, both for Phoenix Championship Wrestling and Impact Zone Wrestling. And I've been able to kind of work with them and get them acclimated to announcing and hosting and sharing any information that I could give, but also having an announced team, which is very, very cool to have. And I always appreciated people who kind of gave me that insight and let me work with them, and to now be able to kind of do that for people just getting into announcing and hosting is a very, very cool experience.
Like I said, the Queen of Soft Style is always busy doing so many things in wrestling, and you just keeping it going full stride. And 2022 big things, going to make them happen. And just like I said, just keep doing what you're doing, and that's what you're exactly doing. The biggest thing you're doing in wrestling is like you're networking on the job, and that's a really good thing, especially in wrestling.
Yeah. I think it's networking is big, in general, but I think it's just your demeanor too, always just putting a professional foot forward, always just keeping focused on what the task at hand is. When I am, and that can feel, maybe could be hard for handle for some people, but when I'm doing interviewing, I really focus on the interview, and whether that's backstage interviewing or podcast interviewing, I really focus on that. And when I'm announcing, I'm focusing on that. So it's just keeping that demeanor and keeping focused on what you're doing in that moment. And if people can see how well that translates in other areas, that's amazing. But I also try not to I jokingly will throw out when I do interviews how I'm an announcer, but I never try and leverage that for an opportunity. It's just one of those things that I just happen to also do. And same thing when I'm ring announcing, if there's an opportunity to interview, that's great, but I never try and force it. And I think that's been something that at least for me works, and that's how I kind of will network, is just get to a role that I've been asked to do based off of that, and if there's value in me doing other roles with either a promotion or with a website, then that's great as well.
Now, speaking of which, we've talked about many wonderful organizations tonight that you've done a lot for and will continue to do as we head into the new year. Now, these two wonderful organizations, now heading into 2022, what would you say about each one that probably you could say from, if you have an opinion to give about each, big things coming into next year about these two wonderful organizations that you work for?
Yeah. Well, the Chairshot Radio Network is going strong. I am proud to be a part of the Chairshot Radio Network through the hashtag Miranda Show and the Greg DeMarco Show. I think that in 2022, it's, just more of being us, which is really refreshing. Being able to work with Greg DeMarco and Patrick O'Dowd on the Greg DeMarco Show, that's been my longest running project now, going on, gosh, I think 3 years. And so continuing to really be part of that trio is wonderful and amazing, and continuing just kind of the randomness and silliness that we do as part of the Greg DeMarco Show and the hashtag Miranda Show. I feel like I'm still continually evolving and finding my voice in the hashtag Miranda Show. And I think this year too, it was a lot of, fighting for what was important to me. And again, still utilizing it to cover independent wrestling is a big thing that I want to do, even a little bit more in 2022 with the hashtag Miranda Show. I feel like being able to use my platform to discuss something that's really important to me is something I really want to do more of with the hashtag Miranda Show. So it can be kind of niche, but that's something that you kind of risk when you are doing anything in content. But I know at the end of the day, it's all about what you're really, really passionate about. And independent wrestling here in Arizona is something that I'm really, really passionate about. So I hope to incorporate that more in the hashtag Miranda Show. But the Chairshot Radio Network is doing wonderfully with lots of amazing podcasts and content each and every day. So the Chairshot.com and the Chairshot Radio Network is only going to grow in visibility, I believe, in 2022. And with LuchaCentral.com, really the big thing that I'm looking the most forward to is Expo Lucha, which will be held in Philadelphia June 11th and 12th. That's going to be part of Mass Republic is hosting it, which is also kind of the host of LuchaCentral.com, and that is something that I am planning to be at for Expo Lucha with my podcast partners as well, Brendan Barr and Dusty Murphy. So we're really hoping to be able to use that experience in Expo Lucha to interview wrestlers, to do an episode of our podcast, to be a part of the Expo Lucha Expo experience live. And there's matches, there's signings, there's panels, there's so much happening at Expo Lucha that I'm just so looking forward to it. So that's going to be really, I think, the big thing coming in 2022 for the Lucha Central Weekly podcast is fingers crossed our ability to all be together at Expo Lucha in June.
Well, I'm just getting like the excitement chills. So I'm really excited for everything, all the wonderful opportunities coming your way in 2022. I think being in Philly in June, me being from the Philly area, I think I'm going to have to take my butt and make a trip down to Philadelphia.
Yeah, Expo Lucha, yeah, June 11th and 12th. Tickets are available online through Expo Lucha on social media, massrepublic.com, luchacentral.com has links to it as well. But yeah, you have Lucha Libre matches, talent announcements all the way from, these Cruiserweight ECW legends like Psychosis and Super Crazy. You have the NWA World Tag Team Champions, Michael Wolf and Bestia 666 already scheduled to appear. A huge amount of talent that are scheduled to appear in Expo Lucha. And it's just a wrestling convention with a big twist to it.
Now, Miranda, when you come on my shows, I always got to put you on the spot for something. I'm sure you've wanted to put me in a headlock many times about that. So I got to put you on the spot again. In this segment, I call, damn Ty, that's pretty good. So you ready for the question?
Okay. Yes.
All right. So in the Queen's mind, pick a killer AEW match you love to commentate. Put a match together. You would commentate. You'd be there. You and JR. If you could have two people or a tag team currently the roster, what would it be?
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, there is the natural Lucha Bros versus Proud and Powerful that I would love. I don't know if I could keep up with the fast pacedness that I would imagine this match would have, but I would love, to commentate for. I think too on the women's side, gosh, any Thunder Rosa match too. I feel like this idea, what we may see in the finals of the TBS title tournament, maybe Thunder Rosa and Ruby Soho. That would be amazing as well. Those are kind of the two that really stand out to me.
Well, Thunder Rosa, she's like at the pinnacle of women's wrestling. Miranda Morales, she's at the pinnacle of women's wrestling announcing. So you're her going
very kind, too kind.
Now, of course, I was going to ask from from 1 to 10, would you come back on the show and party it up again on the show from 1 to 10?
Oh yeah, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10.
And mostly as we go into the new year, what's up next for you? People who missed the pretty much the half hour of the show. Do you remind everybody what you're up to heading up, in 2022 and next week and so forth?
Yeah, no. The next promotion I'll be working for is Phoenix Championship Wrestling in January 15th. I think that is the date. But yes, it's a Saturday. And that is the next Phoenix Championship Wrestling show in Mesa, Arizona. Tickets are still available, as well as Impact Zone Wrestling, IZW, hosts Monster on Saturday, February 26th. So those are my next few shows lined up, as well as still doing the weekly podcast for Lucha Central Weekly. That still comes up about every Friday, Saturday on luchacentral.com. And of course, the hashtag Miranda Show and the Greg Marco Show come up on Wednesdays on the Chairshot.com. So very podcast heavy still in the beginning of the year. Announcing is still pretty vibrant as well. I'm hopeful that the schedule will pick up as well in the new year with more promotions and more opportunities as well.
What can you say? And the tagline for tonight's episode is, I just want to announce that, I'll say it again, one of the best wrestling voices in wrestling, up and coming, the voice of wrestling for Arizona. She's the host of the Chairshot.com, Lucha Central, the Miranda Morales show. She does it all. The Queen of Soft Style, Miranda Morales, was my guest live tonight on Off the Top Rope Wednesday night with your boy Ty Asbury. And Miranda, I got to say, God bless. Proud of you. Just keep the wheels moving and get them demos out, demo videos to WWE, AEW, because you. And you're always welcome back on Off the Top Rope with your boy Ty Asbury.
Thank you, Ty. So happy to be back. Thank you so much. I truly have, valued your friendship, your mentorship, your insight. I'm just so excited for you and Off the Top Ropes for heading into 2022.
I just want to announce that, of course, if you want the best sizzling wrestling podcast, you just got it. Off the Top Rope with your boy Ty Asbury. My live guest tonight was Miranda Morales. We are out of here. Peace out. Have a great night. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to watch the best wrestling podcast around with some sizzle, it is Off the Top Rope.